Hello, and welcome to today's episode of Demystify Selling with Microsoft. And I'm very excited for my guest today, Jeremy Weber. Just as a little background from me, I met Jeremy mid last year through an organization called the Brand Builders Group. And his thought process and his sort of position on working with organizations really struck me as very, very poignant for what I do and what Microsoft partners do. So I invited Jeremy here today to speak with us. So welcome, Jeremy.
Yeah, Rob, great to be with you, buddy. I think back to that time last year, and we had some nice breakout conversations at the Virgin Hotel, and I was like, man, we had some nice throwback, reminiscing about some old days. It was good times.
Yeah, for sure. And maybe just to help our audience sort of with a little bit about Jeremy, you could give us a little background.
Yeah, well, it's interesting, kind of good segue here. Actually, one of the reasons we had such rich conversation then was I think we have a lot in common. If you look historically at my career, while very much now, we started Brand Builders Group, a personal brand strategy firm, about 5 years ago now. A lot of my career historically is in the tech industry, right? I studied computer science in college. So, I was one of those people that came out coding and doing system architecture design, all that nerdy stuff. But I, since then I've pivoted and started my own tech company and sold that. And then, kind of a couple iterations later, was part of starting Brand Builders Group. But I very much ran in these same circles, doing enterprise tech sales and all the big conferences with Microsoft technology and location-based technology with Esri. Anybody in your community that knows, that company, which is a big tech company that has strategic partnership with Microsoft. So, I kind of look at my background as like very much tech. I appreciate and understand technology, but there was a point in my career where I was like, there's better programmers than me, right? There's better, database administrators. And that's where I kind of had that entrepreneurial element get layered in when I started my own business. And very much what we do now is almost like advisory work on how to, scale and grow your business through our unique angle to do that. So I think there's some cool synergies here I'm excited to get into.
Yeah, I have to say that really stuck out for me was that partnership mentality that you had come to develop is you understand what it means to partner with a large organization like Esri and like Microsoft. So that brings me to the conversation that I wanted to share and to have today, which was around building an influential organization. I thought you had a really good approach to this. I really liked your approach to it, and so I wanted to share and dig into that today. So maybe you can start by telling the audience what you or why you think it's important to have this influential organization status. Why is that the place to start?
Yeah, I mean, the reality is whatever kind of business you're running, right? We all want to have an impact, right, on the customers we serve. So, and as part of serving the people you serve, you naturally are hoping to make money doing that and have a healthy business that grows. And I think what we continue to see, whether you're a small startup or a giant 7, 8, 9, 10-figure business, that the way business gets done nowadays is a little bit different, right? Naturally, you have to understand how to market and position your business. But if you want to truly differentiate from your competition, you have to innovate beyond that, right? You have to figure out what are these other ways that we are moving our mission forward and driving influence, whether it be with consumers or strategic partners or people within the business, getting them to take action. So you kind of have to innovate, more nowadays to differentiate yourself and kind of, see market growth. And how to do that is really kind of behind these 4 levels of influence that make an influential organization. And I just think that nowadays, more than anything, it's very noisy. We know that in the marketplace, but we have this other dynamic of, kind of the creator economy and influencers. And you almost have this competition between business branding and personal branding. And, the clients we do business with, there's always a business behind the individual, right? And that's, to be totally honest with you, we're a personal brand strategy firm. And part of this messaging of building an influential organization is, a lot of conventional bigger businesses, probably the ones that you service and are part of this community, they may see that and be like, well, personal branding, I'm not trying to be an influencer or a speaker or an author, or that's
Right.
just for these types of lifestyle businesses, so I'm going to dismiss it. And that's really like a huge missed opportunity. So this positioning of building influential organizations and these four levels of influence are really intentionally for the reason of how do we take what we do, and we're doing it for hundreds of companies of all sizes, and position it where it's a little more accessible, where kind of bigger businesses can wrap their head around it a little bit and ultimately start embracing some of these strategies to continue to move their mission forward and drive growth.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, for me, and thinking about how that applies to my community and the Microsoft partner community, is that there are 400,000 Microsoft partners, maybe even a few more than that. So
That's a
it
lot.
is, yeah, it is. It's a massive number of partners, and it becomes harder and harder to differentiate on just a technology. We're all working on the same technology. We're all working towards deploying the Microsoft platform, and so I love the fact that you're talking about this influential organization, and that's the plane that you're working on to differentiate yourself. And you're sharing that, you're leveraging the influence that you bring as an organization, not just as an individual, but as an organization, to set yourself apart in the eyes of the market and in the eyes of Microsoft. I think that's incredibly important. So I'd love to dive into these four levels of influence that you mentioned, and maybe you can break them down one by one for us, and we can hear more about that, learn a little bit more about your thoughts there.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the first thing that we all and we need to realize is that we all want to differentiate, right? Like we
Mhm.
all want to say like, hey, how do we separate ourselves from the competition, right? And the reality is that you know there are a lot of industries. You just mentioned many Microsoft partners. There were many Esri business partners, which was my old world, right? I was one of
Yeah.
many thousands of business partners of theirs. So very similar dynamic. There are, if you think about other industries, there are many financial advisors, insurance agents, attorneys, like whatever, where the actual product or service is fairly commoditized, right? It's like, hey, if you strip back a lot of these details, like we're actually selling the same thing, right? And so then you say, okay, well, okay, if that's the reality of the situation, how do we differentiate? And what's become clear to me more and more is that there's two main things that differentiate you. If you're a service-based business, it's your process. It's,
Yeah.
if you're a product-based business, it's your product, right? So I'd say more so in your ecosystem, it's like how you do the work, right? You can have a more innovative approach to deliver better results for clients around their use of Microsoft technology, as an example, than anybody else. And you could do a good job of branding and positioning and promoting that intellectual property, that proven thought leadership approach to how you do what you do better than any other Microsoft partner, right? So let's say your process is one differentiator, and
Mhm.
then your people, right? Like, right, that's what's truly unique about you and the competitors at the end of the day is the individuals. So
Right.
so then the question comes like, what are you doing to kind of tighten up and refine those two things and leverage those two things to the full extent to really differentiate yourself from the competition and drive growth. So I just want to, that's kind of an underlying principle across all four of these levels of influence that people need to really like center themselves around. And again, it's not just isolated to, kind of tech-based service companies, right? So four levels of influence. So influence level one is pretty obvious, but it's important to just get it out there for context. And it's that your ability to effectively kind of get really clear on how you brand and market and then position the business, right? So I mean, this is standard stuff. All right,
Yeah.
cool. Like, here's who we're focused on serving. Here's our taglines. Here's our colors. Here's our website. Here's our messaging, right? We have good alignment around how we think about positioning our business and then promoting our business. So that's 101, right? Everybody should be able to check level one of influence, even though some people do it better than others, right? That's kind of a baseline. So if we think where we go from there, and Rob, I'm going to kick it to you to get your feedback on some of these, but I think that's
Sure.
it's a pretty obvious one. So I don't know that we need any commentary on that one. But so the second level of influence, if you just think about, hey, how do I drive more awareness of my business? Unfortunately, building those assets, they don't market themselves. And naturally, as part of level one of influence, you're going to be maybe pushing things out on social underneath the company accounts, and you have a business website and you do all this kind of baseline stuff. But the second level of influence comes when you empower certain people. These could be subject matter experts, these could be sales reps, this could be whoever, to go out and represent your business, right? So we all know this. You have trade shows that you're, paying for a booth at, and at the end of the day, it's those relationships, right, that individuals who represent your business, right, are building, that ultimately let you start driving leads, forming relationships, all that stuff. So that would be the second level of influence is, hey, we're tactical about who are the people that we're going to try to get to go out there and do a combination of online or offline things to go be representatives of our business and try to build relationships and drive new business into the company. And as I think back to my journey, right, a lot of the clarity around these four levels of influence has come from, my 20-year career and, doing a lot of things the wrong way. But more importantly, like kind of learning from those and reflecting back on my journey. And as I think about kind of the days when I was a partner in this kind of tech company that was an Esri business partner, right? I came into that company and we had some pretty good business branding, right? Mm-hmm. And we would go and, go to all your typical conferences and get the booths and have the conversations and all that fun stuff. So we were kind of like, had level one checked. And, as we started getting more clear about our unique market positioning as a business, we were coming to those events with a little more clarity on our value prop, right? But it was still individuals that were bringing that message to those events, right? And having conversations and all that good stuff. And so that was we were doing a pretty good job with level 1 and 2, right? And what was interesting is through clarity in our positioning and through people that knew what they were talking about going to market in level 2, we were able to start creeping into level 3, okay? And the third level of influence is when you basically come in good favor, right, with outside centers of influence, like you get on their radar, right? So you know this in the Microsoft world, it's like, man, if you get key people at Microsoft to know about you and your business and that you can be trusted, like you do good work, right? Because if you're not delivering results for clients, right, they're definitely not going to support and promote you, right? So you did do good work. I'm sure this is an important word in your ecosystem as it was when I was doing all this a long time ago. You're aligned, right? Like you are on brand. You're using the same messaging. You're promoting the latest, emerging tech and all this, right? So there's alignment, right? So your products and services align with where the bigger business Microsoft is trying to take the market and their clients, right? And then you start doing some kind of unique things. Then you can basically build those strategic partnerships with outside centers of influence. Okay. So that would be kind of this level 3 where things start getting a little more exciting, right? It's like, okay, cool. Right. Microsoft, in our case, Esri, like we got invited to be on the partner advisory council. It was like, oh, cool. Like you're one of our top partners. We're going to let you in the inner circle. Right. So as you do that, whether it's an organizational outside center of influence or an individual, right? So, some companies are like, hey, this influencer marketing thing is a thing. I'm going to strategically partner with this influencer, right? That would be an outside center of influence to ultimately drive traffic and refer traffic back into me. Then again, things get more exciting, right? Because you're getting that referral business coming in. But and a lot of people, and I would love your take, like it was hard for us to make that jump from 2 to 3. And again, it's the consistency and the alignment, and you're on message and you do amazing work and you've been at it for a while. So you've got that expertise. I'd love it because I know you do a lot of work kind of in that 2 to 3 range, right? Like, can you speak to that? Because that's a lot of your space, right?
Yeah, well, let me rewind and say that, just thinking about how these four levels of influence stack up makes so much sense to me. Because even though we consider level one to be sort of table stakes, yeah, you have to get the basics in place. I think you touched on something that's really important, and I want to pause on it for a moment, which is the more clear you get about that initial branding, about your ideal consumer, your ideal audience, your messaging and your positioning and how you help, I think that that really informs the next two levels. And I'm excited to hear about the fourth level because the two and three, I've got like a million things I want to say,
Yeah.
but I want to save some time for four too. But I think as you really nail down that level one, you empower the people in that sort of relationship phase, level two, to be clear and consistent on their message. So at scale, your team can get out there delivering a consistent message, a message that's on point, on brand, that's aligned. I think that that's so important. And I think a lot of times we miss that opportunity to say, have clarity at level one so that all of our people, as they're building these relationships and as they're going out and promoting our business, whether it be online or offline. I think that's also a topic on its own is, the avenues people can take to get that message out there is so critical. But, having that clarity from level one into level two, it then, I think that is a big part of the success of getting to level three, which is
Mm.
that, you talked about getting on the radar or the having those outside influencers follow you and be sort of aware of your message and be clear on what your message is. And then that empowers them to sort of align with you and say, yes, this person has a very similar message, has a very similar mindset to what we have, how we're going to market, in this case with Microsoft. But I think it's so powerful, and they just build on each other. That if you start solid on a solid foundation at level one, and you build out level two with your people and your messaging, then that is it opens the door for level three, I think. So I
No,
love it.
and I'm so glad you kind of drilled down a little bit on that because I would totally agree, and I haven't really kind of connected these dots so much until you just mentioned that. As I think back to my journey when we were an Esri business partner, right? We went to conferences, right? We were doing the level two stuff,
Yeah,
but we were kind of like we did a lot of things for a lot of different people, right? Like we knew a lot about various products within the Esri suite, right? So we
mhm,
kind of like did good work for a lot of people, but
right.
we hadn't really solidified our uniqueness in the marketplace. Like we don't want to be like good for a lot of people. We want to be great in this niche of the market because we were a smaller regional partner, right? Like we weren't some
Yeah,
giant multinational. And I think it wasn't, and that let us go to conferences and be an Esri partner and be
yeah,
great, like do okay, like work. The business
yeah,
was good, but we had no chance of breaking into level three being kind of a generalist, right?
right.
Especially in the size of company we were. And it wasn't until this may make sense to you or some of the people listening, but this was several years ago. Esri rolled out their, it was called ArcGIS Online, but it was their SaaS-based kind of cloud-based platform, right?
Sure.
And it was brand new, like newer kind of web-based solution to mapping location-based technology. So it was very disruptive, but we knew, right? We kind of saw the writing on the wall, and it was like, this is going to be disruptive, but this is the future. And it wasn't until we said, we're going to be the go-to partner for this technology. Like we can still do some other stuff, but our positioning, our level one positioning is that we are going to focus and dominate this technology, this piece of their overall ecosystem. And when we made those decisions and focused our efforts, so we actually did really good work and had like forward thinking ideas about best practices and how this is going to play out, how do people help people navigate it. Not only did we do really good work that was applicable, Esri saw a company that was very focused and good and was very aligned with where they were trying to take the market.
Right.
That's when things got really interesting. It was like, okay, this is not just another one of thousands of partners that does a little bit of everything and does great work. And that's great. We're happy to still have our partnership. They were like, this is now a strategic partner that we want to bring into the inside. Right. So
Right.
it was that decision at level one, which naturally dominoed out to our website and our offerings and
Sure.
all these things that are part of like just having the business foundation. But then you could imagine when we went to conferences, our backdrops, our flyers, what we were talking about in breakouts was very aligned with our
Yeah.
niche, right? And then all of that go-to-market strategy, both offline and online and level two, bubbled up to getting on the radar of key people inside Esri
Yeah.
level three, which unlocked those doors. And then things got really exciting where, not only at Esri, but there are other people they're connecting you with. It's like, okay, this thing's got some legs, right? And so you're spot on. And some people are okay. They're like, look, we're good to be kind of like we do a lot of things, and that's great. We're going to be good at a lot of stuff. We're not going to be great at one thing. And that's okay. There's plenty of partners like that. But if you want to unlock these next levels of influence and really just growth and impact, you got to do things differently.
I agree. And in the Microsoft ecosystem, I refer to that as the superpower, and Microsoft refers to it as having that superpower. And a lot of times people think that's at the expense of being good at all these other things. And I say, no, it's not at the expense. Like you rightly pointed out, you were still good at those things, those other things, but you decided this is the one thing that we're going to be great at. We're going to be amazing at this thing. And to your point, that's the thing that I think influencers and people inside of the organizations like Microsoft and Esri, they recognize that like this is a partner that has doubled or tripled down on this one important technology. I think of in the Microsoft ecosystem, Copilot today and the whole AI movement. That's an area where partners have an opportunity, in my opinion, to step up and really differentiate themselves and unlock that sort of higher level influencer inside of the big organizations like Microsoft. So I love that we've gone through levels 1, 2, and 3, and I want to be cognizant of our time. So if you're ready, let's jump into level 4. I'd love to hear what level 4 is.
Yeah. So if you kind of think about the progression, right, we're going to focus more in level one to be great at something versus average at a lot of things. We go to market in level 2 with that niche and that focus to drive more awareness of us being the go-to partner in this kind of more focused area. That lets us get on the radar of more people because we can be trusted, right? Because we're being disciplined to do amazing work. Now, what happens is a lot of people, they get stuck at level 3 because one, things get exciting. It's like, okay, this is great,
Yeah.
right? Like, okay, cool. Like we're getting pulled into opportunities versus like having to grind it and go get it. But there is another level, and we have this saying that don't get stuck outsourcing your influence, right? So if you think about level 3, where is that next level of growth and influence coming from? It's from outside stakeholders. It could be Esri or Microsoft or any other organization, or it could be individuals. Like tons of businesses have partnerships with influencers, individuals, personal brands, right? And that's great. But what you don't want to get stuck with is fully outsourcing your influence. And so what we say is this fourth level, and where things get really exciting, is where you say, in addition to all of this, we're going to take certain people, and you obviously wouldn't do this across the entire organization. It's not practical. But because of the discipline and focus that started at level 1, and then the continuous work of working with clients and talking with prospects and, speaking at events, all the things that happen through 1 through 3, what emerges is true thought leaders. These are true thought leaders. These are not people, subject matter experts. There's a difference between a subject matter expert and a thought leader, right? A subject matter expert is somebody that knows what the heck they're doing, right? These are the solution engineers or whatever. I mean, like these are people that know tech in and out. Thought leaders are people that not only know that, but they also see where things are going. They're a few steps ahead of everybody. They're driving change, right? And so what happens is you don't want to fully outsource that, right? I mean, you want to be investing in key people in your company that you say, man, these are thought leaders in the industry. And
Right.
when this gets really exciting is when you can say, and what's also interesting is these thought leaders are the ones that are easiest to pick off and get recruited away from your company too. So like, this is the dilemma. They're like, well, I don't know about pushing so-and-so out there. Like they're
Yeah.
probably going to get hired away. But the reality is if they're good at what they're doing, they're going to get picked up either way. Like your goal
Right.
should be, how do we empower them, elevate them, support them to have the biggest impact, with
Right.
their expertise possible. And if they're loving what they're doing, they're going to stick around, right? Like, let's take care.
Absolutely.
And so I think for me, that true fourth level is where you are insourcing your influence, and you have, and depending on the size of your company, right? Like it could be a certain number, but we have got true thought leaders in this industry. And when I say thought leaders, it means that, you are writing, forward thinking content, obviously on blogs or LinkedIn. You're probably authoring books, right? On
Yeah.
stuff that's like shaping where things are going.
Right.
You're not paying to give talks at events like most exhibitor packages are. Hey, like pay this premium because you get a booth and we'll give you a speaking spot. Like
Right.
everybody knows what those speakers are doing. They're paying to get the stage. You're being asked to come in and speak at the event because you're a thought leader in the industry. And,
Right.
and maybe you're getting paid even to come in and speak at the event, right? And
Yeah.
so I think that's where it gets really exciting, where you have this business that's very clear about their unique positioning in the marketplace. And then we've said, hey, let's actually take a really tactical approach using kind of these unique aspects of branding an individual instead of an organization, which is what we do, like personal branding.
Yeah.
But let's make sure
Sure.
the positioning of this individual, this thought leader, is in alignment with the company. It's not like, hey, let's let them go do whatever they want. It's like this wild, wild west. It's no, there's a very tactical approach to make sure that we have individuals that feel like they have this freedom to use their intellect and go to market and create this content and drive innovation forward. But all of that is unique to them as an individual, as this thought leader, but it's also tactically hooked back into the business positioning, because at the end of the day, the whole reason we're doing this is to, one, serve more people, have bigger impact, but frankly, drive more traffic and growth back into the business. And so
Right.
when you're able to do all four of those,
Right.
you can see where it's like, wow, this is really like we're influencing the influencers almost at this point. And that's where, there's a lot of strategic decisions around level 4 that make it hard for people to kind of understand, well, does the personal brand live inside the business brand or outside, or how does this all work
Sure.
together? And should I be investing in getting so-and-so out there and doing these things, right? Like, or should they invest in that? Or how do I comp people? So there's all these intricacies of how to do level 4 right. But there is no question, when you lay a solid foundation at level 1, when you have this go-to-market strategy for sales reps, subject matter experts to bring that to market through the classic places, you build strategic relationships with outside centers of influence to get that gas thrown on the fire there. And then you know how to take it to even that next level. Like that's when things can get, again, really exciting. It doesn't
Right.
happen, like overnight. I mean, it takes a lot of time, but that is what's possible. And if you're not willing to be disciplined, like if you think about true thought leaders, they're not like, they don't know a little bit about a lot, right? They know a lot about a little. And that's where that focus from level 1 has got to be there. Again, I'm so glad you pulled me back on that and said, let's go a little deeper, because I think it all starts there. And if you're not clear on that, you don't really give yourself the best chance to execute all the way up those 4 levels of influence.
I love that. I mean, there is a couple things you said there, like the don't outsource your influence, like that on its own, just that, that is that's money right there. And then insourcing your influence, bring it in house, own it. It's,
Yeah.
don't worry about these thing about, oh, they'll be, poached away or whatever. It's, you need to be doing this now. I think that this is the new playing field. I think that, being understanding how to build an influential organization that's beyond just the competitive differentiators of the past. I think that's where the game's being played now. So I absolutely love this, Jeremy. I've loved our conversation. So if folks want to get more information about you or what you do, where should they go?
Yeah, so I'm on all the social platforms. It's the Jeremy Weber. You can find me, just search and all that good stuff. If you have specific questions about any of this, I mean, you can message me on any of those platforms, or if you want to go ahead and just like schedule a call, like to talk through this stuff, you can go to freebrandcall.com/JW. And that'll let you just request a free brand strategy call to kind of like talk through any of this. But yeah, and the last thing I want to just mention, because a lot of people have those mixed emotions about investing at that level in individuals in that fourth phase. And I think we also see that, it's like a big retention strategy as well. Like, you want to retain your top talent. And if you have a way to let them work their magic and do it in a way that benefits them, but also your business, that's the best of both worlds.
And that's a
And so
win-win right there. Yeah.
yeah. So yeah, but yeah, if people have questions, hit me up online or go freebrandcall.com/JW, and we'll get a call scheduled. But Rob, I love your perspective on this stuff, because you're in the middle of these big enterprise ecosystems, and we love what we do, right? Like, and are working with 800 plus businesses now, and it's amazing. But just because of my journey, right? Like I shared with you a little bit, I came very much through that system of bigger organizations, bigger businesses. And so as I've been doing all this great work with, through this personal branding stuff, I'm like, I know this can bring value back in these bigger enterprise ecosystems, but it's almost like how we get the message in there has got to shift a little bit. Like, just because, like people thinking personal brand and thinking influencer or author, right? Like that doesn't apply to us. So my hope is that, maybe this kind of new mental model helps people see how this is really just another strategy, a strategy that helps you, ultimately take your brilliant minds and let them do what they do in a more effective way, so you can serve more people and obviously make more money as a byproduct of that.
Yeah, no, this has been fantastic. And what I'd like to do is I'll drop that link in the comments so that anybody that wants to reach out to you, I would personally encourage them to do that. I think that, I've learned a ton from you and from the Brand Builders group. So I'd highly encourage you, if you haven't checked out Jeremy online, reach out to him, schedule that call. I think it would be worth your time. So Jeremy, thanks very much. And I'll look forward to chatting with you soon.
Awesome. Thanks again, Rob.
Take care.